on is the Pilates 100. This exercise focuses on core strength and strength amount into the lumbar spine. I'm going to talk you through the setup for this exercise, and then we're going to go through the varying levels. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell.
All levels have the same start position. So we're going to start lying in a nice supine setup. Stretch yourself out along the mat and relax. Fold the right leg and bend the knee and place the foot flat onto the floor. Bring up the left leg and bend both knees in line with the hips. Feet flat on the floor and your toes are pointing forward. Your arms are lengthened along the mat at your sides with the palms down. From this position, we're going to take our spine into neutral and we're going to think about the setup. So we need to lift the shoulder girdle up, roll it down and stabilise the shoulders into the back pockets. We need to think now about neutral spine. So take a couple of pelvic tilts, pressing that belly button in towards the spine and imprinting. Then come back out to neutral. Just practice the pelvic tilts a couple of times until you come into that nice neutral spine. In neutral spine, you want to feel that lower back, the lumbar spine, just gently away from that mat. You're going to have nice level hip bones, and then your pubic bone up to your breastplate is going to seem nice and straight in that neutral spine position. Imagine a Malteser is resting on your navel and can only move to the pubic bone and the belly button. Now we feel behind and underneath to make sure we have that nice lumbar spine away from the mat, just to prepare us for the Pilates setup. So this is our preparation. We're going to do some single leg knee folds. So we need to first engage that pelvic floor and lift it up into that pelvis cavity. Then we're going to focus on the transversus abdominis muscle. So I want you to engage it. So the core muscles are feeling tense and engaged to around 30%. We will inhale to prepare, and then as we exhale, we want to bring that right knee up to a 90-degree angle. So imagine you're floating it up, initiating the movement from the hip and bringing the knee to rest directly above the hip with the shin parallel to the ceiling. As you do so, I want you to aim to keep the pelvis and rib connection the same without any movement in that torso. Breathe naturally in through the nose and out through the mouth in the Pilates method. Gently lower the leg down to the floor. Now we're going to do the single leg fold on the other leg, preparing the abdominals. So again, we want to wrap that belt around nice and tight. Focus on pulling that pelvic floor in to prevent any movement of the pelvis. Float that leg up to a 90-degree angle. Imagine that tennis ball stuck behind your knee to keep that angle at 45 degrees. Gently take the knee down and relax. We're going to move on to the next preparation now by floating both legs. So we want to tighten that waist belt around once more once we're in that neutral spine. Ensure those shoulders still remain stabilised down in their back pockets. We're going to engage that pelvic floor up into the pelvic cavity. And as we turn on that transversus abdominis muscle, think of it like a barrel with 3 rings just under the ribs, by the belly button, and then lower down into the lower abdominal cavity. Engage at around 30% once more. Inhale to prepare, and exhale as you float the right leg up with the knee at that 45-degree angle. Focus on initiating that movement from the hip, making sure that shin is nice and parallel. Here we try not to allow the rib cage to bulge. We connect even more, feeling the ribs and pelvis come together with that tight contraction, and we float that second leg up, ensuring those shins are parallel, the knees remain hip distance apart. Continue to engage through the transversus abdominis to connect the ribs and hips with the waist belt around the center. Gently bring that inhalation through the nose into the ribs and gently exhale through those pursed lips. Continue to feel that tension and imagine you've got a tray of drinks resting on your shins. Think of lengthening through the back of the neck and remain connected from just under the breastplate down towards that pubic bone. Once you've held this position for up to 6 to 8 breaths, we are going to gently float one leg down onto the mat with control. Place it down onto the floor and take the other leg slowly down. Now we've done the abdominal preps, we're going to add in the upper body lift. Once more, we need to focus on the cues of the Pilates fundamentals. So maintain that setup with a nice neutral cervical spine, shoulder stabilization, pelvic floor engagement. Transversus abdominis is turned on and you are breathing laterally into that thoracic region. Once you've engaged the pelvic floor and tightened that belt around you, we are going to go through the same process. Once you are ready and you feel that core is engaged, we are going to float once more the leg one at a time, innovating that movement from the hip. Inhale, exhale, and float the leg up. Bringing that knee once more to rest directly above the hip, shin parallel to the ceiling. Nice angle at the knee joint. Imagining once more that tennis ball behind your knee to keep that degreed angle. Float up the second leg. Cue in tension in that TVA as the ribs and hips are connected by that tight waist belt. Equal space between the knees and just above the hips. Now we're going to lengthen through the back of the neck. Exhale and raise the head and shoulders off the floor, curling the upper back and sliding the lower ribs towards the pelvis. Reach the arms forwards parallel to the floor, keeping that tension into the center and stabilizing the shoulders. And relax. We're trying not to allow the tilt to happen to extend that arch in the lumbar spine, or for the knees to come too far forward. Focus on keeping the knees directly above the hips. If it hurts in the neck, just place the head down, or you can support your head with one or both of your hands. It's also advisable, if you suffer with neck pain, to place a cushion or a block underneath your head. Just take the time to stay in this position in an isometric contraction, feeling that tension build through the center of the body as you maintain the lift of the legs and that lift of the upper back. The purpose and benefit of this exercise is to build strength into the core and the lumbar spine. Then as we progress, we can add tension into the rectus abdominis, the quads, the glutes, and the shoulders. So just relax now for a moment, and we're going to set up to begin the pulsing of the arms. Think of the cervical spine, neutral spine, as you roll the shoulders down and stabilize in that shoulder stabilization position. Bring that spine into neutral by tilting gently into that pelvis until you feel it's nice and level and the hip bones are square and the base of the pelvis is resting equally on the mat. Engage the pelvic floor muscle and again focus on wrapping that waist belt right around the center of that torso. The lumbar spine gently lifts away from the mat. You're going to inhale to prepare. Gently as you breathe and exhale, you're going to float that right leg up, initiating the move from the hip, bringing the knee to rest directly above the hip and the shin parallel to the ceiling. On the next exhalation, you are going to float the left leg up, imagining that tennis ball behind your knee. Continue to breathe and feel the tension and that contraction increase in the transversus abdominis and that pelvic floor. Gently peel the head and lengthen the arms. Inhale, exhale, and then when we are ready, we're going to begin to pulse the arms. One breath, inhale for 5 small beats. And exhale for 5 small beats of the arms. Imagine your arms are springboards as they beat up and down. Perform 8 to 10 breaths in this format. That will equal around 80 to 100 beats. Again, if your neck is painful, you can support your head with one or both hands or place a cushion underneath. Pulsing the arms, focusing on keeping the arms long and strong with that movement coming from the shoulders. Feeling that tension in the center and remembering to breathe in the Pilates method, in through the nose and out through the mouth. To progress the exercise, you can slow down the beats and slow down the breaths. Gently place the head down on the floor, the arms down by the sides, and then bring one leg down, followed by the other. I'm now going to demonstrate the next level, so the more advanced level of the Pilates 100. Draw the shoulders and stabilize. Once more, bring that pelvis into neutral spine. Always take the time to make sure that body is set up to make this exercise safe and effective. As we come into this exercise and progress, we are going to be working into the abdominals at the front of the tummy and also stretch and work strength into the legs and also into the neck. So as you're focusing now on engaging that pelvic floor and wrapping that waist belt around, nice and engaged at around 30% at this level, we inhale to prepare and exhale to float one leg to tabletop position. Inhale, exhale, float the second leg to join it once more, lengthening through the back of the neck as you do so. Now you're in this position, the tension will be increased slightly in the center of the body. As you inhale and raise the arms gently away from the mat and peel the head and the top of the shoulders away from the mat. As you curl that upper back away from the mat, sliding those lower ribs down, just keep the base of the shoulders into the mat. To progress this exercise now, you can extend the legs and stretch them out, still remaining hip distance apart. You can either hold in this position with those arms raised, or you can begin to pulse the arms. Same as before. For one breath, you'll inhale for 5 small beats and exhale for 5 small beats, performing 8 to 10 breaths in this format. To increase the intensity of this exercise, you can slow down the beats of the arms and slow down the breaths. To adapt the exercise, you can keep the upper body down and just do fewer beats with the arms or fewer breaths. Continue to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth as you feel the strength in that core and lumbar spine. Long, strong arms and straight legs. This is the most challenging level of the Pilates 100, so gently bring yourself down with control. One leg down towards the mat, followed by the other. Be sure to stretch to release any tension. Bring the knees in towards the chest and give yourself a hug. We've used the hip flexors, the neck flexors, the abdominals, the internal and external obliques down the side of your waist, as well as the legs. We've used that TVA, the transversus abdominis, the lumbar muscles in the lower back to help stabilize the body. We've used flexion and extension in the hips, and we've worked in a sagittal plane. Come into full body stretch and release.
Well done! That was the Pilates 100. Please like and be sure to follow us on social media in the description below.